Hey y'all, I'm Butt Punch Bova, or Jake, or whatever you want to call me. The point is you're here and you're watching yet again another speed build video taking place in our Twitch live stream zoo, the Franklin County Metropark Zoo. And on today's speed build video, we're taking a look at two very odd couples. Now this was something that I had in my mind when I started to take a look at this wing of the zoo. This is the mountain wing. And it was definitely a challenge for me because I wanted to get away from the continent and location setting and start to look at biomes instead. What animals would fit well together in a specific biome? What have the same vibe? What have the same energy? What looks pretty well put together? So instead of hitting just an Asian mountain or a Rockies mountain, I wanted to put two animals together that fit that same biome theme, and we came up with the Japanese macaque, a very popular animal that uses hot springs and climbing structures, alongside the Alpine Ibex, which it came in with the European DLC. And I thought those two would fit really well together. And actually, I got inspired for this build by watching the BBC documentary series Planet Earth, where David Attenborough took a look in one of the episodes at the mountains of Ethiopia, where the Galdea baboon, an animal that we do not have in the game, but man, I really wish they did. The colorations on these animals are so fantastic. This baboon was on a mountain eating grass, living alone up there until it was approached by an Ethiopian ibex. And just the idea of this monkey tribe, these thousands of monkeys being surrounded by ibexes, living side by side, munching on grass, hanging out while the baboons were chilling in trees and the ibexes were keeping low to the ground. They were like watching out for each other as wolves, Ethiopian wolves, were trying to hunt them down. Now they were able to live side by side because while the ibex was eating, the baboons could watch out, right? And at the same time, while the baboons were eating, the ibex would watch out. They were both looking out for each other as these wolves were able to encroach on their territory. Now, this same vibe is not something that we can recreate in Planet Zoo, but the feel of it looks really well when we place together the Alpine Ibex and the Japanese Macaque. So that's what I did here, was try to build a sort of replica of this while taking inspiration, as we like to do on our channel here, from a real-life zoo habitat. This took inspiration from the Oregon Zoo, the Oregon State Zoo. And in this zoo, they had this fantastic mountain enclosure for their doll sheep. Now, the doll sheep is something that we have in our game. It came with one of the original DLC packs, the Arctic pack. And I just thought it was a fantastic looking animal, the doll sheep, but it didn't have that same energy that would fit side by side with the Japanese macaque. So I wanted to fit two animals side by side here that worked really well together. And I just have to say, you know, obviously some of the habitat pieces work really well together, but what doesn't work well for me is the fact that the ibex has this fantastic mountain climbing structure, but it has to also flatten out the terrain. So definitely for future reference, when you're putting down the Alpine Ibex's mountain climbing enrichment item, you're gonna want to do the terrain afterwards, because if you do all that work with your terrain tool and then you place the enrichment item down, it flattens it all out, it ruins the environment, and you have to basically redo it over again. And that was kind of a pain. Not gonna lie, I was super discouraged when I got all this really good terrain modification done. I placed down this big enrichment item that I had not used before. I was like, oh wow, no way, it works pretty well. It's flexicolor, it'll blend in with the aquatic rocks and the faux rocks that we have here, and then it just flattens out all the terrain and undoes all the work I just did. So that was not great. But I mean, I was really happy to say that these animals work really well together. They share the same indoor environment where we're able to combine stables and an indoor climbing structure for them. You guys will see later on in the video. And they just kind of like chill together, like goats and monkeys, two very relaxed animals, have the same kind of vibe, the same kind of energy. Like, I actually really like them together, and it just felt good to see these two animals side by side. And I know the guests really like them too, because they're two pretty good animals that be placed together in one habitat together. And that makes me wonder what other species are kind of an odd pair, an unconventional pair to place side by side. So if you guys have any thoughts, leave them down in the comments below. I'm thinking things like, flamingos and Galapagos tortoises, or maybe some sort of I don't know, the American alligator and the red-crowned crane. Like, what two animals could exist side by side without them realistically eating each other or doing this? We're seeing this right now with the giant anteater and the maned wolf. Like, that's one I saw earlier this week that got my brain modeling. Like, wow, okay, more people are thinking about this. What are two oddball animals? Now those two were kind of a cheat because they live in the same like biome and the same environment, in the same continent. But I'm trying to think of what animals would never see each other in the wild, but would fit totally well together in the same zoo. So if you guys have any thoughts, let me know in the comments, whether that be pronghorns and ostriches or giraffes and pandas. Like, what fits? What do you think fits? As I want to hear it. And I'm going to leave you guys to the rest of the speed build, and I'll catch you up with you later when we take a look at the end game live view of what we finished with. Alright, so here we are with the finished piece. Now, obviously I've done a bit more work with some foliage on the outside of the park, but that's just fluff. When you're getting to build these things, just focus in on the habitats, and everything else around it will start to take shape and mold to the liking that you want. I love this. I love how, look at all the animals as they're moving around and they're interacting with each other. Super cool, so fun. And the guests are getting a great look. So let's take a look at the first-person view of it. And here we come. We're coming up the hill, coming up the mountain area, and I think we're going to need a big sign right here before this game is through. Before this build is through, we're going to have a really big, cool sign here that says Mountain Trail. I love these. I love hiding everything, I love making sure that the guests don't know what they're looking at until they turn the corner, and suddenly we have a nice rock wall and some animals to look at in there. Real pretty. Real pretty. We can take a look here at the hot springs. The apes as they run around on their climbing structure, like a very simple climbing structure that just encourages the macaques to come down here and use their hot springs. Now they don't use it very often, and I think that might have to do with maybe some of the water enrichment items working or being accessible, but they certainly do like having this climbing structure for sure. Let's just take a look at this other view. This is more of the kind of this trail that we're able to go in on, watching the animals as they come in and out of their barn. Some of the goats in the background as they're climbing up and down. But I love the idea of having game trails and having areas for the guests to look at the zoo from these game trails. Let's come around and take a look at the other viewing areas. So I like the idea of having each one of these guest viewing areas kind of be the stage, right? Be the stage where the actors, the animals, can go and perform. Like here we have some more goats sitting between their education boards. I love that. I love seeing the macaques and the goats like almost interacting around the education areas. Kind of sets the stage for everything. Let's climb up the mountain here. Coming around the corner here. The goats really love just resting on this area. Often we see the big buck. Is that what it is? A buck? A stag? It's a big goat. I don't know what a boy goat is. Anyone can tell me what a boy goat's name is? By all means, please. But we have the Ibex just hanging out here with the macaques, and they use their climbing frames and everything. It's super fun. And they mule, they bray. The bray, yeah. Braying is the word they do. And finally, the last viewing area is just this little area here, this little hiding area next to the door that the keepers can go in on. In fact, we're gonna go ahead and take a look inside of this the barn and see what's going on here. Stinky food. Okay, cool. Good stuff here. Stinky food. And this is inside the barn here where the macaques are sleeping. They are sleeping in the stables where the ibexes normally hang out in. On the outside here, we have this nice scarecrow and these paths. Oh, hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, they're just giving a good itch. Love that. Hey, I'm walking in on something, aren't I? Okay. But that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching. I imagine the next video in this series is us going up the mountain a bit more to look at more mountain species. And if you have any suggestions for what other animals would fit well in a mountain biome, please drop them below. I'm trying to look at some animals that don't get a whole lot of spotlight, What are the ones that are the undersung heroes, the underdogs? Who gets the limelight now that we're coming around the end? But thanks for watching. Be good, y'all. And as always, like, follow, subscribe, and let me know what you think of the video in the comments.